Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to You Didn't Catch That. I am Noah, and Taylor, my co-host. You didn't catch season 1 of Babylon 5?
If I didn't catch the movie, why would I have caught the first season?
I don't know why I keep asking you this question. You keep coming to me with the same answer every week we come together, one of us is like, "Nah, I didn't catch that." And I say to you, "Taylor, why do we keep coming together and talking about things that one of us hasn't seen, requiring one of us to see it, and then we spend 90 minutes specifically in this circumstance with running randomly. I don't know why you insist on me starting a camera before we do this sort of thing. And microphones too. And we just talk about the thing that we just caught, having spent a lot of time not catching it. I don't know why we keep doing this. It just happens every week for some reason.
Okay, I get your point. I just didn't want to repeat the excuse of my mom wasn't a nerd again. I wish she was. I really wish she was.
So, ladies and gentlemen, theys and thembos, thank you so much for tuning in. This week we're talking, as I just said, as the title of the episode says, about the first season of Babylon 5. Faithful listeners will recognize Babylon 5 as being the title of a pilot movie we saw early on in our show's history. That's like, what, 8 episodes ago? 9 episodes
Yeah.
ago?
No, it's been a bit. We took
It's
a
been
bit of a break from Babylon 5. And it's
kind of hard
so
to access
relevant.
the show. So we took 2 months. Oh yeah, you think it's relevant now? Wait till like, later. It gets real relevant. This show, very very topical. A lot of the things that were happening in this '90s sci-fi show. Anyway, to like just get the groundwork settled, so you understand what we're working with here. In case you didn't catch us talking about Babylon 5: The Gathering, the pilot movie, Babylon 5, at least the first season and every season really just follows the adventures of the people aboard the Babylon 5 station. A couple hundred years in the future now. Lots of space politics are happening. We need a place for space politics to happen.
Yeah.
And also maybe a nice like interstellar trading port. So Earth sets up the Babylon 5 station, which is the fifth attempt at such a thing, and the only one to actually go online and not blow up or vanish into a time warp.
So
Uh,
far.
so far, so far. Uh, so it's like the UN, but it's also like a massive trading port, and we follow the adventures of the humans that run it, and a lot of the different alien council members that are aboard, and of course, there's a whole overarching plot line. Earth sucks because, yeah,
Earth always sucks.
and we get to just see what happens, you know? All sorts of fun things happening. Space Nazis, of course, because there are always space Nazis and future bigotry and colonialism and former slaves trying to establish their way in the world after being annihilated by those aforementioned forces of colonialism. It's a fun show, very lively, very 90s. It's peppy and optimistic in a depressing and pessimistic sort of way.
You know, for a show that's like has no idea of what archaeologists or anthropologists do, it like puts at the forefront a lot of themes that modern anthropologists are studying and that like historically anthropologists have always really been into, like topic wise.
Mm.
Which isn't a surprise because big social movements have always been like what anthropologists study. We study small ones too, but like big ones always gather a lot of people. And the show has a little bit of everything if you're a cultural anthropologist.
Oh yeah. The social is moving in this show, let me tell you what.
So,
So, hey, Taylor, as the newbie, as the resident newbie today, let's see. What do you want to talk about first? I mean, it's a whole season. We cover a lot here, and there's a lot that, changed from the pilot movie, a lot that I've told you changes from the rest of the show. What draws your attention? What do you feel like is the core of what you want to attack first in
first
this
off,
first
the
season?
most important issue is what we need to talk about first. The fact that Susan now has Takashima's illegal coffee bean plants. And no one mentions it. Besides Garibaldi saying, hey, those are illegal. And Susan's like, I'll give you some. And he's like, fine, I'm a cop. I could be bribed. But, like, The coffee plants are still around, even after Susan and Kyle are gone. I mean, not Susan, Takashima and Kyle are gone. So I'm happy, because at least somebody got carried over that wasn't just a white dude or an alien.
The, the, the essence of Takashima lives on in her illicit coffee tree. Or
Illegal coffee, always.
the illegal coffee, which is why we're still going to be putting together that Etsy store full of Takashima's cafe merch. Because the specter of her coffee beans linger on in the show.
Forever.
Link's not in the description.
It's literally the good ghost of Takashima still there. Her presence making herself known every time they pick up a cup of hot mocha. I'm not dropping
Space
that.
mocha.
Anytime they mention illegal coffee, if they mention it at all in the future seasons, I'm bringing it back up. Like, I miss Takashima. Susan is great. I like Susan.
Oh, yeah.
But I like Takashima more.
Lieutenant Commander Susan Ivanova, second in charge of the Babylon 5 station. Whomst we stan?
We stand to a degree. I'm just gonna be like that with all the characters.
You gotta be like that with all. I mean, given the etymology of stan as a word, you gotta say that's sort of implied with any time somebody says stan nowadays.
Yeah, fair enough. Then there's people who take the word too seriously and are like, what? You can't! Anyways, let's talk about the characters first before we get into themes, because once we get to that archaeology episode, I still have a lot to say.
It's been so long in the archaeology episode, the scar still burns.
It's literally episode 4!
I know!
We watched it through like 2 months ago, and it haunts me to this day. Okay, but characters. Who I like.
Yes.
Susan. Winters, to a degree. Delin, to a degree. She's starting to get fishy. Jakar, to a degree. I know, I'm surprised too. Franklin. Franklin, to a degree.
Can we just say asterisks?
Asterix.
After every time you say that you like them. And we'll just know that the asterisk is to a degree.
Yeah, you know, the only one who, there's only 2 characters who I'm not to a degree on as of right now, and that is Linear and Nataf.
Oh, yeah.
I'm loving them. They are great. They have done nothing wrong in this season so far. And I know, and he already told me Nataf leaves after season 1. She disappears. And I'm so upset because all my favorite fucking characters keep getting, dropped off the face of whatever the Babylon 5 is. And I'm so sad because Nataf is so good.
Right off the face of Epsilon 3. I should take notes of all your favorite characters because I might need to double the numbers and see just how many of them do actually vanish off the face of the show at one point or another.
Oh fuck! There's gonna be more! Kosh I also really like, and I have nothing against him so far as of right now, but he hasn't done shit, so.
That is absolutely true. Kosh is just sort of loomed in the background and not that much. Oh, I don't have my Kosh helmet on. How can we do a podcast episode without my cardboard Kosh helmet I made in middle school?
Do you want to go get it real quick? I can fix it.
Nah, we'll survive without it.
Okay. But
I'll bring it next time we record a Babylon 5 thing.
Oh, you mean another 2 months? Okay.
If we really burn through the season, we could record the finale in a month.
True. Alright, so, Nataf and Lanier are amazing. They are the only 2 who I think haven't done anything wrong so far. Lanier, or Lanier, I don't know. Anyways, Delin's aide, the little guy, and he's there. He's there just trying to be the best assistant.
Of the third Fane of Chidomo.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember that. He's there just trying to be the best assistant he can be for the secret member of the Great Council, who he knows is a member of the Great Council, but can't say shit about, and he never admits he knows, but he knows. It seems like everybody who knows Dylan knows except for the humans. So, like, it's the Batman secret. It's well kept, except for it's not kept at all.
No one here is exactly what he appears.
Yeah, basically.
In the words of Jafar.
Yeah, in the words of Jakar, like, dude, pay attention to the game. Like, come on now. But, Lanier's pretty cool. He's just trying to be best boy and help anybody he can out. Londo takes him for a ride and, like, he abuses his, like, allowance for money and food. And then takes him gambling when he realizes Lanier's really good at counting cards without getting caught counting. So that was fun. He also saw Londo's genitalia, which,
Oh, yes.
much like him, I too was also horrified and wanted to forget that it had been seen.
Yes. Besides their hair, the Centauri look very human, and they make a point of saying, "You look very human on the outside, but inside we are nothing in common." And for the first time, we get to see evidence of that reality. One of 6 pieces of evidence, evidently. I told you, they have 6,
Oh!
to quote Veer.
I was trying to figure out what else could be weird about them. Are we going to have 6?
No, no,
Are we
no,
going to
no,
have
no,
5
no, it's
other
just-
instances of weirdness? That's what I was trying to figure out.
It was
Like,
a purely
anyways,
anatomical statement.
much like Lanier,
Tentacles.
I
Actual literal.
much like Lanier, I wanted to forget that that had ever been seen or existed, and much like him, I couldn't. So, he's a good boy. He even knows Delen's gonna know you used me and I'm lying to help you, but fuck it, I'm still gonna lie to help you because that's what we do. We help people. And I'm here for that. He understands it's not gonna harm him in any way to do this for Londo, so he might as well. Plus, Londo causes enough trouble. Everybody kind of knows it was all him anyways. Like, let's be honest. Sinclair was not shocked, nor did he believe that shit. Because Lanier lies to protect Londo to Sinclair and says that he accidentally offended people during a card game and that caused a massive fight to break out. Well, Londo got caught cheating. That's what caused the fight. And Lanier is like, fuck it. It's fine. It was me. I accidentally did it, Commander. He didn't do anything illegal whatsoever. The Commander's like, you both do realize you have, like, political amnesty. I can't charge you with any crimes anyways, right? And they're like, yeah, but let us continue on with this show of, hey, I'm a good person, so let me take the blame for you. And no one believed him. But he tried. The boy
He's just
tried.
such a good boy.
The boy tried.
He's just doing his part. He's doing his little part.
Okay, so Nataf.
Nataf!
I love Nataf.
Who
She's
took
kicking
over
ass.
for Jakar's first aid after she ended up in an unfortunate airlock incident off screen, apparently.
And apparently she died. I don't know.
They needed him to have a new aide show up just when he was worried that he was about to be assassinated, so he had someone to be worried about.
Yeah.
And also give, like, plausible deniability for when she, like, pretends that she is the another assassin to maybe fool the viewers. You were not fooled.
No, I didn't buy that shit. She was clearly faking it. But obviously it's not going to be her. They're not going to send somebody they didn't thoroughly check to be his aide. Like, come on. He's out here playing the field, getting them more wins than I think any other member of the Narn would have gotten them this far. Like, shit. Jakar is detestable on many accounts, but he's smart. And he knows how to play the other ambassadors and the humans, and I will give him props for that.
He's got the political game down, especially for a guy who started out as a revolutionary.
Yeah, no, he is not here to be fooled. But
Was he a
Nataf,
revolutionary, or was he just like a warrior? I think
don't-
just a soldier.
I don't know. But Nataf is the best aide out of all the aides on the crew right now. Like, Veer's funny And the first aide that before Nataf was replaced was really funny too. And I was really expecting more Veer moments with her,
Oh yeah.
and maybe the two becoming friends. And that's the future of the Narn and Satari relationship. Them
Mm,
slowly becoming friends. That didn't happen though. She died promptly after.
no.
So
No.
that sucked. But Nataf. Nataf is a
Nataf.
badass who does not let Jakar talk down to her, but he never really seems to think about doing it after she proves, hey, I'm on your side with the whole assassin deal. Like, he's kind of rude to her when she first shows up, but after that, he treats her with genuine respect, which I was surprised by given how his introduction was trying to get a human woman to like have sex with him to have a psychic kid. He's come a far way from that introduction.
Oh yeah.
A very far way, and it's been an improvement. And
And
Nataf,
especially when you
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and especially when you get to the episode Deathwalker, when like
Yes.
Space Mangala shows up, and it turns out that Nitoth's family has like taken a special vow of like murderous revenge, because it's Space Mangala, and obviously
Yeah.
she probably did her family wrong, and so the first time that Nitoth sees her, she just lays into her, whacks her, like almost kills her right there and then.
She's trying to kill her. She would have done it too if like security hadn't been there to stop her, because yeah, apparently the cops have to do something.
And when she's like handed over to Jakar's custody because, presumably diplomatic immunity of some sort, what does he say to her? What does my guy Jakar say to her?
I literally have it. I literally have it written down as a quote here. She apologizes for bringing him shame, and he says, "You do not shame me." And then she looks surprised, as the audience is probably surprised too, because I was surprised. And then I'm looking for the exact quote, but I can't remember what exact episode it was. I have it written down though.
It's like, you would shame me if you didn't try to fulfill your oath.
Exactly.
I understand. I have that sort of thing too.
And then he
I
says,
am proud.
I am
I think is what he
proud
says.
of you. He specifically says, I am proud of you. And like Nataf is like genuinely warmed by this, and honestly, so was I. Like, he said that.
Yeah.
The guy who was introduced as like the sleaziest of side bags, clearly supposed to be part of the evil alien group that's going to be the biggest antagonist of the series, and he gets to have this genuine moment with someone else who he actually respects. I love it. I'm here for it. I hope they don't assassinate his character with her gone, but I'm sure they will. But still,
I think that
so
I'm
great.
glad that you're already on board the Jakar train, because
To a degree.
we're going places with him. It's a fun place to be on this Jakar train.
I don't like his attitude. I don't like how he treats everyone else on the ship, except for Londo. I feel like Londo deserves all the shit he gets thrown at him from Shagar. I'm still seeing a lot of those same red flags from the movie. Where, they are clearly setting him up to be a sleaze bag. He's going to be a big bad guy, or at least his species is going to be a big bad guy. Throughout the series, it's going to be a whole thing, I'm sure. And they might even be the final big bad. I don't know. But I'm still seeing those red flags. And I don't think the show is going to continue to let him become better, since Nataf isn't going to be there to be the one person he can confide in and act differently around. Unless they give
Absent the opportunity
Yeah.
to be nice, you think that it's just downhill from here.
I really do.
By neglect, if nothing else.
Unless they find someone else to show that side of him with. Because that's really the only time you can respect Jakar. Is when he's owning everybody else in the politics game. And when he's with Nataf and being an actual person. So, yeah, I'm kind of worried that with her gone, Jakar's positive aspects are going to be gone too. But, like, with Nataf gone, there's no more Nataf. You don't get to see her beat the shit out of people. You don't get to see her intimidate the other age just by standing in the room. Like, you can't tell me Veer was not a little scared when they were all in that meeting. Like, come on now. All she was doing was standing on the wall, and he was, like, so far away. He was like, there needs to be space here. We never see them.
Veer. Oh, Veer.
We never see them interact, but I had canon that he's fucking terrified of her, and rightfully so.
That is absolutely true, I suspect. It remains to be seen. I guess we'll see how they treat Jakar and the Narns
You know.
as time goes on.
It's not we'll see, I'll see. You already know. It's the fact that Jakar...
Yes, I do already know.
It's the fact that Jakar, who was introduced as a total fucking piece of shit, can actually say, not only to just another person, but to a woman who he's also taken moments to genuinely mentor in this whole show. I'm proud of you. John Winchester couldn't even fucking say that to his sons before he died. Like, come on now. Come on. Jakar is already better than John Winchester, and I'm here for it. I was definitely expecting them to be the same kind
wonderful.
of shitty.
Well, I can tell you this much. He is not that type of bad. Like, he is definitely not John Winchester.
I'm so relieved. I thought it was going to be like womanizing, piece of shit, asshole all the time, and he hasn't been that. I still don't like him that much compared to the other characters I like, but he's farther along my positive side than, like, Sinclair or Garibaldi or Londo.
I mean, that's more than fair. Londo is such nonsense. So all that talking that we did earlier regarding colonialism and the space execution thereof, that's all coming from the Centauri Republic, formerly the Centauri Empire. I guess it's still an empire. They still have an emperor, but it's, you know, it's one of those Rome numbers. Anyway, Londo's their ambassador, and he is
he's
trash.
Something. He is something.
At best, he might be described as your trash if you're a fan of him, but he's definitely trash.
He's funny, but you were right the first time you said it, when he's basically the embodiment of colonialism. That's exactly what he is.
Oh, yeah.
In every fucking way, that's who he is. Right down to the apologetics and the, hey, just because we treated you poorly doesn't mean you get to treat us poorly now. Like, shut the fuck up. Honestly, I was kind of rooting for Jakar when Jakar leaps at him and tries to beat the shit out of him. In, like, the third episode, when there's an attack on a Narn... There's an attack on the Centauri colony, and Londo is upset, and Jakar's people did it, but they won't admit to doing it, so they create this whole fucking scheme where they blackmail one of the Centauri into saying, yeah, we asked for their help to be here. And then stuff goes wrong, and the Narns end up getting chased out, and a lot of them die, and then Jakar's upset. And that, I think that's when the Jakar and Londo fight happened, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was kind of rooting for Jakar. I was kind of rooting for Londo because, hey, his colony was attacked. It was a bunch of farming people from his species, so of course that's going to be shitty. But on the other hand, I kind of wanted Jakar to continue beating the shit out of him because, like, you're a colonialist piece of shit who actively wants the Narn back under your control. You kind of deserve this. It's like this fine line where, like, neither of these characters are really that great, and they're both wrong to a degree.
Yeah.
But you also have reasons why you kind of want one or the other to win. Like, Londo's funny, and his colony was attacked, but, like, Londo's people are literally trying to like take as much shit away from the Narns just to continue hurting them because they got free from their
Yeah.
colonialism. So, even though Jakar's a dick, like, you kind of want him to get a few fucking good punches in.
Yeah, definitely. Season one is sort of the height of this sort of moment where you have all this, and it's a recurring theme. These interactions between the Centauri and the Narn, the sense of like, especially as they're embodied by Londo and Jakar,
Yeah.
you definitely don't feel like either is wholly in the right, and you kind of want to lean towards the Narn, absolutely. And for a lot of it, you just genuinely do, but also you just see the bloodshed, and the truth is,
Kind of
it's hard to root for bloodshed.
It's really, really hard to root for bloodshed unless you're just kind of into that. But, like.
And it's like it's this whole big thing, you know. Those two's big arc for this one season is like, hey, you can stop this now. And Sinclair basically does it towards the end. They're having another
too
big
little,
argument
too
about
late.
some or other Narn
No,
Narn facility, and he's like, hey, this can stop now. We don't have to keep going along this route. And both of them, at some point or another this season, give the answer. You know, Londo's like, yes, it does, and Jakar's like, reluctantly, effectively saying, thank you for coming to talk to me, but this is how it's gonna be.
like,
Londo's a lot more like decisive about it. Jakar, I think he's starting to get it, or at least he doesn't want to admit that he gets it.
I think Jakar's always understood it, but I think he's never let his reluctance show to anyone outside of Nataf except for that final episode. I think that's the change. Again, Jakar's super smart. He can walk into that room and he knows what sides everyone is playing at. That's why he's gotten away with being the bad guy and the antagonist in some of the smaller situations that have happened and they've needed to go to the council, and he's managed to get all the other counselors to vote the way he wanted them to, even when they didn't want to. Like, he's been able to manipulate situations well enough to do that. And I haven't agreed with all of that. A lot of times I think he's just being a petty dick. But in the final episode, the big conflict is a research station on a planet whose resources the Narns need because the Centauri took all their resources from their planet. And the Narns have taken over this other planet that, as far as they've mentioned, has no living people on it except for the Narns who have been sent there to mine the resources. So it's not like they've taken over another civilization to get resources. They found an empty planet that they need because the Centauri stole everything from them. And that's not a... The reason why, like, I'm summing up the conflict is because that's the big thing. There's a lot of stuff the Centauri and the Narns fight over that don't need to be fought over. It's just them trying to piss each other off and nipping at each other's heels like fucking chihuahuas. But in the final episode, that's a genuine conflict. The Narns can't give up that planet, or else they don't have the resources to continue protecting themselves against the Centauri, who are always looking for a chance to subjugate them and everyone else back under their heel. And, like, you can see Londo doesn't always agree with that thinking. He misses the glory days where the Centauris were in charge of everything, but he doesn't outright want to destroy lives. Whereas Jakar understands that you have to destroy lives in order to continue protecting things, but he's also taken steps to try and protect his people and prevent bloodshed from happening. That's what the whole argument on the planet was about. That was why he needed the Centauri to concede so there wouldn't be a war over it, but he wasn't going to send his people away because they had to fight for the resources they needed because they don't have them anymore. They were stolen. And at least, and again, I'm biased because I really can't stand the Centauri. I don't really like the Narns' way of doing things, but it's effective. And at least in this one instance, I don't think they were in the wrong. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know we're talking about sci-fi politics in a fantasy land that doesn't exist, but like it really applies to real life too. Because
Oh yeah.
if all your resources have been stolen, aka any non-white any country that has a majority of non-white citizens by a white country, and you need those resources in order to continue living, what's better, that you take them from other living beings like the Centauri did, or that you find an empty planet that belonged in another person's vacuum of space, and you just fight for that one planet that doesn't even have other people living on it at the moment? Like, I just feel like in this one situation, the Narn had a good point. I think Sinclair should have talked to Londo instead of Jakar. I feel like Jakar should have gotten that talk from Sinclair 8 episodes earlier,
Mm-hmm.
because there have been so many instances where Jakar has been in the wrong and has just been fucking with Londo and Delin. Just to fuck with them. And like any of those times, Sinclair could have had this conversation and he would have been in the right. But at this time, he went to the wrong person, and Londo went to the big evil bad guys of what I'm sure will be next season. The ones that have the invisible spaceship that's just concentrated dark matter, and the invisible people who walk around and follow Morden and go around making deals with everybody, but only helping the Centauri out.
Yes, those mysterious, shadowy. What did you call them?
They look like water skitters. They literally look like
The
water
invisible water
skitters.
striders. For those of you curious, the ending of this like big conflict resolving the unpopulated planet results in Londo s- uh, not unintentionally, but like sending the water skitters on unknowingly by through
Morden.
the intermediary of a man named Mr. Morden, who he's had interactions with before, who just seems to be here to help Londo. At least that's what he keeps telling Londo. In exchange potentially for a future favor. Anyway, when Mr. Morden comes back after like having executed, Londo's request to solve the issue of this planet, something or other, I can't remember.
I don't remember the
Um,
planet's name.
was it No, no, I can't remember the
I
planets either on
genuinely
this
do
show.
not
Anyway,
remember.
Londo's like, "You killed 10,000 Narns," and then Mr. Morden's like, "I didn't know you cared. 10,000, a million.
And
They're just Narns, Ambassador."
Londo
And it's
almost
like
admits he
throwing
does.
Londo's words back at him.
Londo
And
almost
you
admits he
like you were
does
saying,
care.
it's like you were saying, Londo doesn't get the cost of life for what he wants. He wants empire. He doesn't understand that empire means bloodshed. He wants revenge. He just is not prepared for that scale. Like, oh shoot,
He
I wanted to hurt them in a brutal, bloody way, but you hurt them in a brutal, bloody way.
yeah. He wants the ease of life and all the great stuff that comes with that without having to think or burden his moral conscience with what it costs to
Yes.
have that ease of life. Like, again, upper class white Americans of modern
And I
time.
guess the question.
And I'm not trying to like say white people are horrible. I'm a white person. I personally don't think I'm horrible, but like Amazon is horrible. But we all keep using it because it's convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That sort of perspective is, so much of what makes a lot of Londo's subsequent arc, and also a lot of what happens on Earth, really interesting. So much of how it's pertinent as it relates to, whiteness and
Yeah.
colonialism and patriarchy, and so much of, you know, these historical wrongs that have been wrought across the Earth and how they're reflected into space. That's sort of going to be the central arc, I think, for Londo. The big question to keep in mind, like as you were saying, he wants that imperial comfort, but he doesn't want to think of all the pain. So the question becomes, can he ignore it?
And like you would think he would already like start to have that awakening to what that pain actually causes. because
Mm-hmm.
he has a fling with a slave early on in the series where he genuinely falls for her. Like, they've only known each other a day, but fuck it. It's
Implied to be a bit longer than a day, but yeah.
whatever. They've known each other for an episode. Who knows how long that is in TV time? I think like 2 nights pass in the episode itself. But he falls in love with a slave, and you would think, oh, the system made her a slave. That's hurting her. Maybe there's still issues with the whole Centauri Empire that are still happening. But no, he just thinks, well, the one guy who was controlling her was a bad dude. Really,
No,
Londo?
no,
Really,
no
Londo?
thoughts, no radical considerations. Head completely empty,
Except for sex. I think
except for sex, and that's something he shares with Jakar.
that's something he shares with Jakar, but like Jakar's head isn't empty for nothing but sex.
Head full. Also, sex is there too.
Also, sex is there a lot for both of them, but like they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and in the middle, Garibaldi. You have Jakar, head full, where's sex at? And then you have Londo, head empty, where's sex at? Then you have Garibaldi asking the same question, and you think he has intelligent thoughts? Because there are moments
Hmm.
where, like, he's able to empathize with people on the station who don't have the same opportunities as him. But he's a cop, and that ruins it. Because... and
Poor
this-
Security Chief Michael Garibaldi. You're such a cop.
You're such a fucking cop! Listen, like, I'm not shitting on him just because he's the security chief. There are genuine moments in the show where he knows something's wrong, but he's an officer first and a human being second. Like, and if you're... He literally shits on the people who live, like, on the lower levels, who come looking for jobs, then they can't find jobs, and they don't have the money to go anywhere else, so they're trapped there and living homeless on the station in like the lower levels. That's, I don't remember what he calls them, but they're the lower level people. And
Oh, the down below.
Yeah.
The lurkers and down below.
yeah, the lurkers and down below. And he literally trashes on how they're all lazy and they're all awful and they're all always committing crimes, and how his jail, and how, like, it's not a jail cell, it's fucking, what the
Brig.
fuck? The
His
brig.
brig.
How his brig is constantly full with lurkers causing trouble. And Sinclair points out, you do realize most of those people can't afford to leave or eat. That's why they're stuck there. Right, Garibaldi? And Garibaldi's like, yeah, I knew this one, and he helped me out with this, and he was real cool, but then another lurker killed him. So they're all trash, except for, like, the 3 who helped me. And that's such a fucking cop mentality. And that's not helpful. Because if those 3 can be good, and you took the time to personally get to know them because they're helping you out, and they're good because you got to know them, maybe extend that same, like, I'm not saying sit down and talk to every lurker down there and spend days upon days learning about everyone, but maybe just genuinely offer that same basic empathy to them. Like, hey, maybe you're also a good person stuck in a shitty situation that just needs a little bit of help. And then you could also get back on the right track, according to his line of thought. He's literally head half full. Sometimes I'm empathetic, but most of the time I'm on the same level as Londo with the whiteness, except for the Nazis are bad. That's where I draw my line. Nazis and fascism. Except for when I want to commit fascism, because I'm a cop and I want to get people to stop committing crimes and listen only to me, except for Sinclair, the other white guy above me. Oh my gosh, he's such
Haven't
a
seen
fucking
much in the way of
cult.
like his response to like drugs yet. Remember that drug they mentioned in the pilot, dust? That did not show up in this season.
No, that
So we didn't get to see his horrible anti-drug abuses. One assumes that those are coming.
yeah, except for the fact that he's an alcoholic. He admits he's an
Yeah, oh, you're right.
alcoholic. That's literally the
Oh
only
yeah,
drug.
that's a big issue for
That's
him.
literally the only drug that gets talked about in this season that he actively acknowledges and discusses. And he talks about how difficult it was for him to get his life back on track. And after his friend died, and he went on another drunken stupor because he's a war veteran and he suffered from PTSD, and that's what caused him to drink in the first place. That's a real life issue, and those are real life problems people face. But again, if you can overcome that drug issue, why are you insulting all the lurkers saying all of them are drug addicts and they're all horrible pieces of shit? If you can get better with the help of your friend Sinclair and the other people who rely on you, why the fuck can't they? What makes you different from them, Garibaldi? And I know he can't answer because he's a fake fucking character, but still, he's such a goddamn cop. That's why
So is there any other element of his copishness you want to get to?
his abuse, just like his physical abuse towards everyone. There's several instances where like he's chasing people down and he'll tackle them and hold them down until they can get cuffs around them and take them to the brig. That I get. One time when he's drinking and he's drunk, somebody picks a fight with him and he literally beats the shit out of them. Like to the point where he almost goes to the brig himself. But he doesn't because it's Garibaldi and Sinclair's his buddy and he's the chief of security, so who the fuck's gonna arrest him?
Was he drunk there? I thought that he was just like
Maybe he was just
just
angry.
extra angry because of extra news. The only time he's been drunk, he didn't really win.
He didn't
Like there
win
was
that
no
fight.
real fighting. He just got decked. I think that he was just like
You could be right.
he was frustrated because of what was it? Was it the same episode where like some woman from his past that was like
The
the
girl
little
who was
girl
kinda
of the
like
friend
his-
that he knew?
Yeah, but that's the same one where he ended up getting super drunk because he lost his job temporarily because she took it because she didn't trust him.
Yeah, but I think the fight was earlier in the episode. I think
It
that
could
he
have
got
been.
drunk later on.
I thought
Because when he's drunk, he is he is gone.
Yeah,
He
can't
can
fight.
barely stand.
I thought he had already been drinking at that point, but maybe I'm misremembering. That's completely possible. The point is, Garibaldi sucks. When Londo is genuinely feeling like shit, he's annoying Sinclair and Garibaldi about something or other. And they're done putting up with him because it's Londo, and they only have so much patience for him. Garibaldi threatens to kill him because Londo did something that was bad, and every other thing Londo does is bad. Garibaldi threatens to kill him, and Londo later genuinely asks him, if I had actually done what you thought I had done, would you really have killed me? And Londo and Garibaldi are the only two, like, okay, so Londo purposely annoys a lot of people, but many of them don't laugh at him or have fun when he's annoying them. One of the few people who do genuinely laugh with him is Garibaldi and the slave woman and Veer. Those are like some of the few people who genuinely find him funny sometimes. And he considers Garibaldi a good friend. And I don't know if that's because he actually considers him a good friend or because he just calls him that so he can get him to cover his casino tabs and bar tabs sometimes. I'm not sure which it is. It's Londo. Could be either or a little bit of both, let's be honest. But he looks genuinely hurt when Garibaldi said, yeah, in a second. This is a guy who your job is to protect. That's a guy who, while he annoys you, he does call you a friend and reach out to you and checks on you later, not once, but twice. Once when he knew you were feeling shitty, and once when you were in the hospital dying. He genuinely cares about Garibaldi, and Garibaldi would shoot him in a fucking second without second thinking it. And that is another reason why he's such a fucking cop.
I mean, it should be said in the specific circumstances, Londo is running around and Garibaldi knows, like, supposes and is actually right to believe that Londo has a gun and also imminent murderous intent. Like, it's not,
Still, you don't have to shoot a person dead. Kneecaps are a thing. The hand is a thing. In the shoulder is a thing. As a security chief, he should know if he has to use a gun, he should know where he can fire a blaster to, like, disarm without killing alien life forms, because he definitely knows how to do it with humans. He just chooses not to whenever he starts shooting at humans. Point is, he's a cop. He sucks. But he's sometimes funny. That doesn't make up for all his copish bullshit. The relationship he has with his dead best friend's daughter is cute. But I feel like she was right to mistrust
it is
him.
cute. Well, well, not really cute, actually. She's pretty horrible to him.
She's
Like,
pretty
she
horrible
shows
to
up
him.
and is doing, like, full prep for the arrival of, like, the president to visit during, like, some, grand tour. And she, like, tries to take full control of the station. She's going after everybody. She's,
Yeah,
ticking off Ivanova,
she is taking off
which is
Ivanova.
a foolish
She
thing to
should
do.
not have fucked with Ivanova. Like, I get her not trusting Garibaldi. I understand that, especially given the history, and she knows how he is with drinking, and he literally gets caught drunk as fuck later in the episode. I get all that. She should not have fucked with Ivanova's job. That's probably the one thing I disagree with.
So we've talked about Garibaldi, who's a cop, but you like him in the context of a potential ship with Londo, whom you also don't really love because he's got the colonialism thing going on. Let's move on to someone who we can, say that we are a big fan of. Asterix, Lieutenant Commander Susan Ivanova,
She's
who is again someone we stan Asterix, and on Wild and Great, and is technically the replacement for Takashima, but she's also fun, and you get
yeah.
over that feeling of you're not my real Lieutenant Commander pretty quickly.
I mean, I still feel like the show would be better with Takashima in it. Takashima did not feel like as much of a cop as Susan does, and that's part of the reason why I don't like Susan. Like, she's not my top favorite character because she's still kind of a cop, and her and Garibaldi still both take bribes as long as it's from one of their other senior chief members. So, still, there's
I mean,
iffy stuff with her. She literally tells
I mean, what
Franklin.
bribe did she take
She literally
besides like?
she literally tells Franklin, well, she takes, I don't remember. Garibaldi offered her something after she helped him. She was like, sure, yeah, whatever, I'll keep it quiet. She also, like, misused military, she used some of the communication centers on Babylon 5 to talk to her dying father, which, is more forgivable, but still a security risk.
What a copy thing to do,
And she's
talking to
literally-
your dying father with whom
No,
you've become
that's
distant.
not a copy thing
as
to do.
he's on his
What's
literal
a copy thing
deathbed.
to do? What's a cop thing to do is when the doctor, that fucking Franklin, is down on the lower levels giving people free health care because he doesn't want them dying because he's one of the few people with a fucking conscience on this ship. He's down there helping people for free, trying to make sure they are taken care of in the only way he can help. And she's like, hey, this is illegal. And he's like, yeah, but the law's wrong. And she's like, but if you're breaking the law and you get caught, I go down with you, so at least let me know if you're breaking the law. And she's kind of rude about it. And, like, that is a copy thing. That's one of the only things she does. It's really copy. I wish she treated him with more respect given what he was fucking doing. But
I mean,
again,
she's still
one
on his side
instance.
in that scene.
She's
I mean,
still
you'll
on
recall
his
at the end of it,
side.
he's like, I'm okay with breaking rules. I've meant a few of
But you
myself,
have
and
to
I
tell
don't. I'm
me.
not upset by this. I just wish you'd tell me so I know when you're breaking them.
She doesn't
And
say
then
I
she
wish.
and then they end the scene with her like getting
Yeah.
rinsed off to try and help him, literally get down
Yeah.
in the dirt there and help these people.
No. Again, and I'm saying that's one minor instance. She's nothing compared to Garibaldi. It's just there's still those kind of attitudes that ring true from her that kind of feel like, oh, she can become more militaristic and like a cop if they do that with her. Like, there's seeds being planted, and I'm nervous about them specifically. And the whole attitude she walked into that situation with, because she specifically
Potential for
says,
future coppishness
yes,
is the real
it's
danger here.
upsetting. It's like concerning and upsetting, and I don't want her to go down that path, but she's not going to go down the path I want. Because I just want her and Winters to realize, hey, we both have some worldviews that we both feel very strongly, and they're not both entirely correct or entirely wrong, and maybe we can work together to grow on those said issues and worldviews, and like maybe get closer together and hook up along the way. That's not going to happen. This is a 90s sci-fi show. Queer relationships are not going to be a thing in it.
No,
But
like
I
you keep
still
saying, it is a
hope
90s show. It's absolutely a 90s show, and the odds of this happening in a 90s show.
they're not going to happen. I am fully aware of that. I'm still going to ship it, and I still hope they do, like, grow the relationship between those two characters a lot more to where they can at least be women with respect towards each other who help each other along their paths, because Winters needs to learn that she can stand up to the corpse and actually change it, and Susan needs to learn that not everyone in the corpse is automatically horrible because they work for the corpse, because she already knows a lot of them have no fucking choice.
The Miss Winters we're talking about here is the Miss Talia Winters, the licensed telepath on Babylon 5 after Lita Alexander, who was in the pilot movie, left. The in-universe reason is because she, was called back by Psychor because she was in, the Vorlon Ambassador Kosh's mind. Out of universe, I don't actually remember why the actress wasn't on board for the rest of the series. Suffice to say, Talia is here. She is a member of Psychor. She also is basically towing the party line of pro Psychor. When they run across a young girl who's just developed psychic powers, she's trying to sign her up. But she's also got her issues too. Yeah. There's an episode that comes around the bend where an ex of hers named Ironheart, who has been the subject of Psychor experimentation to try and enhance telepathic ability, shows up, and he's like, hey, the Corps up to some nasty stuff. They turned me into a telekinetic just so I could do assassinations, and now they're after me because they want to dissect me and make more assassination psychics. And she's like, whoa, that's really bad. That sounds like something that is untrustworthy, and is in fact a reason that I shouldn't trust the cult-like government, pseudo-governmental body that I was, like, forced into as a small child.
Okay, yes. And also, the fact of the matter is that when she meets a young girl who has psychic abilities, who is a lurker, who has literally been stealing just to survive, and Garibaldi wants to throw her in jail forever, and Susan isn't opposed to that, she just doesn't want her to go to Psycorps. And if they send her to jail on Earth or keep her on the brig there, she's gonna go to Psycorps. So that's also another copy thing from Susan I wish was better, but I can move past that. Point is,
I mean, the motivation in that context is pretty explicitly mostly to do with her anti-Psychorness and a lot less to do with any copishness.
No, yeah. She literally agrees with Garibaldi that she can remain in jail, but she doesn't want her to go to jail and face persecution on Earth because she's a minor and her mom is not alive anymore, because then Psycorps will get her. And she's fine with keeping her in the brig until they can find somewhere else to take her, just so Psycorps doesn't get her. Like, that's still kind of, why would you keep a child in the fucking jail? Like, still kind of iffy.
I mean, if the alternative is like cult freakiness that has killed your actual mother, I don't think that's copishness. I think that that's like acting in the rational best interest of the child.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you can still say you have her under house arrest so she can't go with Psycorps instead of, and like put her up in a room instead of like sending her to the brig. That's my point. There were other ways that she could have gone about it that would have been less copy. The point of the matter is, as I was trying to get, Talia in this episode is totally on Psycor's dick. Like, she is on that. She's writing it. She's there for it. She's totally on the side of the cult company that raised her and trained her to use her abilities since she was a child. But she had already seen her ex die and ascend to godhood in a previous episode due to their experimentations. So it doesn't make sense that she sees no wrongdoings in Psycor in this episode, or why she thinks that's honestly the best choice for the child, when one, she already saw what happened to her ex, and she literally experienced him in transcending to godhood, and he left her with a magical message in her brain as he became a god. Two, she already has been having issues with Psycor because of what they made her look into a serial killer's head before. And then 3 episodes later, they make her do it again, and she has no choice but to do it. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Ironheart
she's so
does
on
get
this side.
Ironheart gets invoked by name in the episode in question with the young girl,
Yeah.
and she reacts really aggressively. The implication therein being that she's got a lot of conflicting feelings. She's got a lot of open wounds, in fact, related to Ironheart. At the same time, that one major traumatizing incident has not processed itself and collated itself sufficiently to have her form anything radical. Potentially because the idea of like abandoning the core, which has framed itself explicitly, as we'll find out in later seasons, as her mother, as her father, trying to tear herself away from that relationship is potentially more painful. You know, it's a horrible, complicated, abusive parental relationship in the form of a broader like organization. And the idea of separating from that is, you know, this one foundation, this one like haven where she's been able to be her own person her whole life. I think it's kind of understandable that that wouldn't happen all because of one even extraordinarily traumatizing incident. It's kind of part of the tragedy of being a telepath.
That's fair, but given how I didn't have that information, and all I know is that it's a company that trains all telepaths and forces them to go there when they're children, you would think there would be a coldness to that left in her from maybe being torn away from her said family. So, from all the information I have presently, I expected that incident with Ironheart to have more of an effect on her so that she wouldn't be so gun-ho for the kid to go there. That's my thing.
I mean, I'm not coming after you. I'm just saying, like, with, like, even as they presented, like, the explanation of it all, I think that there's room to see her as, like, there being an understandable, like, reason for this feeling in her.
Yeah, and there could be, but I don't know it yet, so I'm not going to forgive it for a possible reason I have no idea about. Because
I think
in
it's
the
all
first season.
present in this season. I think that it's all pretty much out there. Like, you know, it's like the Jedi, you know? Like, she shows small child, demonstrates powers, is whisked away to another community, and is indoctrinated to be loyal to that community.
The Jedi is completely different because more often than not, the children are orphans who don't have a family to be taken away from. Anakin was an exception.
A lot of them have families.
Anakin was an exception, not like the typical norm.
The implication I always got was that, like, the default was, no, we're looking around, we're checking, like, genetic tests, and we're just whisking small toddlers away.
No. See, the Jedi set up completely differently because while they are doing genetic testing and they are keeping records, they just keep records. They don't force children to leave their families. They let the families have a choice. If the families want their child to go get trained, then they go to the Jedi Temple because a child who's force sensitive who has training is really dangerous when they don't have other force sensitives around them who can, like, maybe rein in their power a little bit if they go fucking psycho with it.
I totally thought that it was like a forced like withdrawal thing, and that was one of the big sins of the Jedi. And that's why, like, in season 6, is it, of the Clone Wars, where we run into a race that is almost entirely force sensitive. They hate the Jedi, in their like view, steal children. I thought, like, oh yeah, of course they do. That's like the Jedi's thing.
The Jedi
stealing children and being a trash organization that can't do anything effectively.
In the Star Wars,
first
off, this episode's not about Star Wars, but I have to correct this. I'm not a Jedi apologist. The Jedi have a lot of fucking issues. Fuck the Jedi, but they don't steal kids. That is a rumor that's in universe, And it's something early Jedi did, but modern Jedi look back on and see as barbaric. So
You'll have to send me some
current Jedi do
examples of
not
this. I need
do
to see the
this shit.
details.
That is also in Legends and is no longer canon.
Anyway, the Psi Corps, that is their thing. So anyway, that is their bag here, taking children away. It's why Ivanova's mother had like
It's
the
why
three
she was
choices,
medicated until
be
she
a cop,
committed suicide.
be in Psi Corps, go to prison, or like you said, get metaphorical hormone therapy until you kill yourself.
Well,
A thing that has no real world analog, and we will not address.
well, like, so I don't. Yes, yes, her having to take those hormones did directly cause her suicide and caused her taking her own life. But it kind of seems like, how do I want to word this? The medication is awful and is an inhumane thing to do and shouldn't have been fucking happening. But the suicide, while
You
it was
don't
caused...
blame the medicine per se.
I don't blame the medicine for the suicide. I blame the people forcing her to take the medicine for the suicide. You can't blame an inanimate object because it didn't directly kill her. I blame Psi Corps.
Weird line to take.
I blame Psi Corps.
I mean, I recognize the reality of it. You know.
The medication
Hormones,
is doing a lot of
hormone
hormone
suppression treatment can't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah. It's Psi Corps' fault for forcing her into that situation where she had to take medication that made her feel shitty about herself. So shitty that it led to suicide.
I'm not sure. So why do you feel that's important to make that distinction? Because I think it's explicit, the hatred of Psi Corps, and also that the drug was the method by which they eventually killed her, directly or no.
Because I have had a personal experience with a family member who had to be medicated as they were close to death. And while the medication that they took and what we had to physically do as their family members to keep them alive was also slowly killing them, it was either do all that stuff that slowly killed them or watch them die quickly before the doctors could do anything. So that's why I draw that distinction. It's not the medicine that directly killed her. It's the people forcing her to take the medicine that sent her down to such a place where her mental health could get so low, where she could emotionally become so distraught that is the only way she saw out, because it was the only way, because Psi Corps wouldn't let her out. So I blame that entirely on Psi Corps. And that is completely due to personal reasons.
I don't know. I think that there's I can see, why you'd feel the need to make that distinction. I feel like
it's not a necessary distinction.
It doesn't really count as medicine. I think as a drug, it's just another weapon of like harm and control.
That's fair.
And ergo, yeah, we could call that just that is the thing that killed her, because that is the weapon by which they controlled her until the point where she, was so harmed and, so depressed that she felt suicidal. And
yeah. And
sometimes medicine makes you depressed and suicidal. It's a thing that happens even in the real world.
I completely acknowledge it's a thing that's happened. Again, I've seen my family go for that. And where they had the option to get off the medication, take a different kind that didn't make them like that. She didn't, because Psi Corps wouldn't let her stop.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where I really draw the distinction. And it's not a necessary one, and it's not that big of a deal. But personally, it's not a big personal deal to me that the distinction is made. That's just where my distinction is at judging the current situation and at looking back at it.
We have 2 characters left here. Who do you want to tackle first?
Wait, who are the 2 characters we have
left? And let me tell you, we're running out of time here. We've hit your favorite Vines time.
We haven't talked about Franklin, and we haven't talked about Delenn.
Well, 3 characters left then.
Yeah, I want to talk about Franklin. I want to talk about the archaeology episode.
Let's talk about Franklin.
Okay, so Franklin honestly feels like the most realistic character on this whole cast, which is really sad because he has no fucking screen time. My biggest complaint about Franklin, let him have more screen time, because he actually on his character centric episodes, they raise really big questions, that I love seeing characters tackle and grip and like grapple with and come to their own conclusions on. There's a whole episode about religion. And you know my personal stance on religion. And I know yours to a lesser extent. And it's a great episode. Because as a doctor, he has the ability to be able to save a child who is very sick. And is suffering from something that can easily be rectified. But the child and the parents' religion refuses the child to have open surgery because only animals get cut open, and if you're cut open like an animal, your soul leaves you. That's what they personally believe. That is their culture and religion on their planet. And I do realize there's a difference between culture and religion, but their religion heavily influences their entire culture, and that's very clear in the episode, hence why I'm connecting the two at the moment. So Franklin has a choice. And he can either do the surgery and save the kid, or wait until the very last moment to try and convince the parents to agree to the surgery so he can save the kid, or watch the child die. Those are his three options. And at first, Franklin goes with option number 2. Just try and give them as much comfort as he can and talk with them and be there for them until they slowly realize surgery is the only option, so they'll agree to the surgery because they don't want their son to die. Then a second doctor comes in. And I don't remember her name. I just remember she was angry as hell about this and saying how you're lying to them and you're not actually being a doctor because you're not fixing that little boy and you have a duty as a doctor to fix him. And this is where the conversation of religious right versus like child safety comes in. And again, Franklin's like, either we convince the parents or we can't do anything because we don't have any legal control over the child. It is literally their choice. It is a religious right. We cannot oversee that. Until halfway through the episode, this other doctor has finally gotten on him and he's realizing, oh shit, the parents aren't changing their mind. So he throws Sinclair into the mess and tries to take legal control of the child away from the parents. You're making a face, but that is what he tries to do. He tries to make the child...
No, I'm listening to the audio.
Ah, okay.
I just thought that there was something weird in my audio. I'm not...
He tries to get Babylon 5, or Sinclair specifically, I cannot remember, to take legal guardianship of the child away from the parents so that they can save the child because it's child endangerment that is happening by them not letting them get the surgery. And it's this huge conversation on, like, religious views and cultural views versus medical health. And in the end, Sinclair's like, I cannot agree with you on this. I can't take the authority of the parents away from them because A, no one's going to represent them and argue on their behalf to control their child. So it'll literally be all of Babylon 5 against them, and that's already an unfair advantage you would have. And 2, it is their religious right to not request the surgery. And 3, Sinclair does the one thing everyone should have done at the very fucking start and asked the kid what did he think. And what did he want? And when the child says, I don't want to die, but I don't want to have the surgery because then when I die, if I have the surgery, I won't go to their religious equivalent of, like, the afterlife. I don't remember. And Sinclair's like, all right, that settles it. And he's like, no, Franklin, you don't get the right to do this. And Franklin has to grapple with that. And he disagrees, so he performs the surgery anyways. And this is why you don't fucking do that. Well, there's several reasons why you shouldn't do that. One, you're not supposed to infringe on people's religious rights. There are some cases where I would argue where it's totally fine to go against that. But these people... Franklin wasn't taking permanent control of the child. He wasn't taking the child away from the parents. He did the surgery and gave the child right back to his parents. That was a foolish move, because when you have super religious folks who believe that surgery or something akin to it will affect their soul and their afterlife forever, it permanently causes problems in the family dynamic. That child could easily be abused or neglected, which is a form of abuse, or literally anything else. And instead of it being a slow death, the parents literally put their child in a robe, take him to their room, and kill him. And yeah, so either way, the child still died, and Franklin's choice only mattered to the extent of what everyone else believed happened to him in the afterlife, because the child still ended up dead. And that is a real problem and situation doctors run into, and oftentimes they have to face that same situation. And I feel like that was really real, and I really liked that. And there's been a lot of, like, really real topics and conversations to talk about in Babylon Season 1, because, oh my god, there were so many space Nazis. But I talk about politics so often, I'm so done. Like, I'm so tired talking about Nazis and how fucking awful fascism is. But, again, there's so much serious shit happening in Babylon Season 1 that this was just another instance of that. And I really like that a show from the 90s was already discussing that. Because, like, it's a really difficult topic, and it's hard to take a side on. And a lot of people go on the side of medicine. But you have to think about, well, if you do that, what happens after? What happens to the kid and the family they are going to have to return to if they aren't taken away due to child endangerment? Like, what are the steps you're willing to put in as a safeguard to keep things like that from happening? And I think the episode answers it pretty well, that, hey, the only real safeguard is to just listen to the parents' choice at the moment in time. There was nothing else set up on Babylon 5 to actually protect the kid. So that was really great. And the archaeology episode was horrible. Trash. Archaeology doesn't work that way. That's a Tomb Raider. That's Lara Croft and Indiana Jones. They aren't real archaeologists. That's not how that happens. Literally, the guy who plays the archaeologist in, like, the fourth or third episode, which is the archaeology episode of Babylon 5, plays Ducky on NCIS. And I fucking love Ducky. But, like, that's not archaeology. That's not how that works. That's just bad. Don't take this sci-fi show seriously as if that's what archaeology is. No. Archaeologists don't do that. They used to do that, and then everybody realized, hey, maybe it's bad to fucking steal things from minorities and, like, other cultures that have no significance to you. Maybe stop stealing things and blowing them up because you feel like that's archaeology because you really want to use dynamite. We don't do that anymore. We study that past and we learn from it, and we don't do that anymore.
So with time running a bit low here,
God, that's not.
and and two more characters to get to, can you bum rush your way through Delenn and Sinclair? Sinclair especially, who's about
he's
to
never
vanish
coming
from the
again,
face
I
of the
guess.
show for a while.
Yeah, he's never coming back. So, gosh, I guess I can. Everything about Sinclair and Delenn really tie in together. Sinclair is best when he's hanging out with Delenn. That's when I can most stand him. I don't really like him with Garibaldi, except for when he's telling Garibaldi to cut his shit. And I don't really like him with Susan, because he kind of, like, treats her with kid gloves sometimes. And that just, like, fuck off, please. You didn't treat Takashima that way. Susan is just as capable. Take the kid gloves off. Like, stop. I wish he was harder on Londo. I wish he was as hard on Londo as he is on Jakar, just in general, because he obviously has a more negative opinion of Jakar than he does Londo, and I feel like they are both equally shitty on some levels, and that he should talk to both of them the same way. and everything about Dylan and him. So, overall, I ship it. I kind of thought this was the only one of my 3 ships so far that would become canon. Because my 3 ships are the shitty boys who kind of better together and hopefully could get each other to quit their jobs and just retire somewhere. Londo and Garibaldi. The 2 very capable women who like could honestly become an unstoppable force if they just worked together. Susan and Winters. And then it was my one hetero ship so far that was like, this is probably the one that's going to happen. I feel comfortable shipping this. Dylan and Sinclair. Because Dylan so clearly likes Sinclair. She so obviously likes Sinclair. She's there for him all the time. Anytime he needs some emotional comfort and he doesn't go to Garibaldi, he goes to her before his ex shows up. And then he gets engaged to her. So that happened. But... Miss Sakai. They're so cute, and I love their soft moments where they get to sit down and talk to each other and debate philosophy and culture and like kind of have this soft exchange where everyone else is so loud and so aggressive all the fucking time. They're soft and quiet, and it's a nice contrast. And Dylan is part of the Great Council that kidnapped Sinclair during the Battle of the Last Line, which is where all his people died and was the final day of the war between the Minbari and the humans. And I guess there's a prophecy that the humans have to fulfill, which is why some of them were allowed to live. Sinclair being one of those people who she feels like can fulfill the prophecy. And, it's obvious that they were going to do more with that, and it's sad to see that they're not going to do more with that, especially with, like, the future Sinclair that we had already seen being this prophetic one who was displaced in time on Babylon Station 4. And it's going to be sucked that we're not going to get the end of that, because even if they weren't going to get together, I really wanted to see him having to deal with the conflating feelings of, oh, shit. She kidnapped me, erased my memory, has been manipulating me this whole time, but she's also one of the few people I trust on this ship. Because even when he wasn't entirely sure what had happened to him, he still trusted her and confided in her. And I really, really wanted to see more of that fucking relationship become complicated and get fleshed out, and I'm sad it's not. Otherwise, Sinclair sucks. He's boring. I don't like him. I don't look at him in a positive light. The few things he did right was when he sided with the parents over Dr. Franklin in that one episode. So when he tells Garibaldi stop being such a fucking cop sometimes. And when he stands up for Susan when the psychics want to force her to do a psychic evaluation and she's like, fuck you, I refuse. Those are the few good things he did that I really liked. Dylan is bomb ass all around, but I'm kind of getting suspicious of her because if she has been manipulating Sinclair and everyone else this whole time, I'm kind of worried she's going to be a bad guy. Like, at first she comes off as the peaceful people with her whole Minbari thing. Like, the Minbari genuinely come off as, we are wise beyond our years and peaceful, except for that 2 times we went to war against the Centauri and the humans.
They haven't gone to war against the Centauri.
I thought
just
they
the human.
did. I thought that's what stopped the Centauri Empire. The Minbari
They
did.
never say what stopped the Centauri. Did they? Did they mention it was the like Minbari like unify? I don't remember. I don't.
Thought, but
It never
who
comes
knows?
up again if that's what it was.
Okay,
They
we
don't
don't
hold a grudge
remember.
against the Minbari. I think it was some sort of coalition of forces.
Okay, I just assumed the Minbari weren't on it. But, okay, so they weren't. My mistake. Point of the matter is, her people came off as the stereotypical, you always have the one species of aliens that's older than everybody else and wiser than everybody else, but it's clear that cautious people are fulfilling that role now, because they straight up say, Kaz straight up says in one of the early episodes when talking about the Narn and the Centauri, damn it. Kosh often gets asked to help with issues that are going on, and he just doesn't give a fuck about them, so he doesn't. So whereas Dylan is often offering wisdom and trying to be productive and helpful to the other species, Kosh is like, fuck off, you aren't worth my time, why the hell are you here? I guess I'll watch you all. And he literally says in episode 1 or 2... They are alone. They are dying people. We should let them pass. Who? The Narn or the Centauri? Yes. And I wrote in my notes, and honestly, this is pretty much a perfect summary of Jakar and Londo and their people's relationships with each other. Because while they are so busy being at each other's throats, the Mabari and the Vorn or whatever Kasha's people are, and the humans are all watching them, and are all just waiting for them to stop and for them to vanish, because they all believe they're gonna outlast the two that are constantly fighting with each other. It's this air of superiority that surrounds them whenever they deal with anyone of the Centauri or the Narn. And that's basically Dylan. Dylan also feels that way, but she's polite enough to hide those obvious emotions when she's not, like, talking to them directly. When she's talking to, like, Linear, I don't remember which way his name goes. When she's talking to him,
Linear.
she lets her negative emotions on the Narn and the Centauri show. And she even lets her negative emotions on some of the human show. But not Sinclair. Never Sinclair. And I really want to know what the hell that chrysalis was, and if she's gonna forget ever being on the Great Council, or what's going on with that, and if she's even gonna care that Sinclair is gone. Because I swear, if she doesn't care that Sinclair is gonna be gone when she gets out of that chrysalis, I'm gonna be so upset. I'm gonna be so upset. Like, that's literally one of her most defining relationships with the other characters on the station. She has to at least acknowledge it, at the very least. If she doesn't, and if Garibaldi doesn't, and if Susan and Franklin don't, what the fuck? One final thing on everybody. Fuck Sinclair for never inviting Franklin out to dinner whenever he and Garibaldi and Susan eat. There are like 3 instances of them all eating breakfast or dinner or lunch together, and Franklin is never there or even talked about. Sinclair as the guy in charge of everything should fucking make sure he feels included, and fuck him for failing. We need more Franklin.
Oh my goodness. Well,
That's
then.
how I feel.
Let's see. We're actually running pretty low on time here, so I guess
apologize.
We won't get to Kosh, I guess, this time around, which is all right, because again, Kosh doesn't have much going on for him.
I want to
All
make a
mysterious in the
prediction.
suit. I will ask you, we had this final scene here at the end when Delenn goes to speak to Kosh one last time before entering the chrysalis. She has to see him as he truly is, because he spent the whole season and the whole, like, pilot movie in his, like, special space encounter suit. He, like, does, and he actually reveals himself, and there's all sorts of, lights and sound effects, and she is looking up at him. And I wondered, like, knowing what the secret is, I think there's enough information there that you could potentially put it together. I think that you have the information and, like, the know-how to potentially put the tools that scene gives you to make an educated guess.
Man, if I, like, completely misfire, that's gonna make me look real fucking dense. Thanks for setting all that up, Noah. I just want to
hear your guess, and I want to make you understand all that's at stake here.
I do have a guess, and I said it during the episode. I really do think it's gonna be a small alien on a fucking chair. We see that in several other media as well. Like, even Ben 10 does it. Like, come on. I don't know where it originates from.
It's the Men in Black scenario.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's where it first showed up in, but I know it does happen in there. I'm assuming it's that, or at the very least, it's gonna be one of them from the future as a really old, crusty fucker who's, like, in the suit to protect their identity. Those are my 2 guesses.
I see.
I'm leaning more towards the small alien fucker in the big suits to make them seem like more intimidating. But then if that's the case, it makes me really curious about why the surgery, like, seemed to be... It makes the surgery that Kyle did seem a little weird. That Dr. Kyle did seem a little weird. But, like, that's my own personal, like, issues. I do want to say this. I think Dylan guessed it. I think Dylan guessed what Kosh was or who Kosh
Hmm.
was before he was shown. And I think that because she sends Lanier down to ask him a question, he answered with yes. Lanier came back and told her yes, and she's like, I must see for myself to believe it. So I think she guessed it. I think she's on point. And if Dylan can guess it, and if she probably forgot it. But there's going to be clues dropped because Dylan guessed it, and she's going to be able to guess it again, even if her memories are erased or whatever happens with the chrysalis. I still don't know. I'm counting memory eraser. That is what I'm counting on. Maybe all her memories are stored in that triangle because there's two others. The council, the Grey Council mentioned that specifically. So I'm like Charlie Day, bored of theories over here, trying to connect everything that has to do with Delin, because honestly, she's the most interesting character simply because there's the most secrets around her. Like, Kosh has the most secrets around him, but, like, there aren't as many clues on him. Her, you can
Hmm.
fucking connect.
So, would you like me to tell you when we find out the answer to Kosh's big secret? Just to like have it as like a big date coming up?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
I believe that we find out Kosh's secret at the end of season 2, in the season 2 finale.
Yes! I'm still waiting for the others, psychic to come back. I almost
Oh
said
yeah.
I almost said psychopath again. That's the second time
Gotta
I've
get
done that
Lita
with the
back.
psychics. So I keep trying to
Well,
say psychic and telepath. I keep accidentally saying psychopath when I'm talking about the psychics, and that's not what I mean. But I still waiting for her to come back and be Kosh's aide. I'm still set on that. I really, really want that one thing to happen.
oh boy. Well, we have just about hit our time limit here.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you the big final question, which is of course, do you recommend this? You know, you've seen the pilot movie. Now that you've seen the show, do you recommend Babylon 5 season 1?
You know, yes, I still recommend it. It's a heavy show, but it talks about plenty of serious topics in a way that it's easy for people who, like, if you don't know anything about the religious rights versus the scientific or health arguments, you're still able to understand that episode of The Doctor. It presents
Hmm.
everything in a way that's easily consumable for the viewers and still forces them to ask hard questions. So, yes, I would recommend it. If you're looking for a feel good show, Babylon 5 is not a feel good show, but it's a damn good show. Better than
Oh
I thought
yeah,
it was going to
it's
be.
rock solid.
There's still like underlying like sexist issues and a few things I have on like the theory of like racism, especially with like the workers' rights episode, but we didn't have time to get to that because I went on too many rants. I apologize.
So,
I
oh
still
boy.
really want to talk about that. Maybe we'll do that when we do the fanfic thing. Who knows? We'll talk about it
Oh
then.
man, I'm just glad that Sinclair was on workers' side and using like labor
Yes.
controller tools to be pro labor. Like
You
go
know, you
Sinclair.
know what? That is the fourth thing Sinclair did right. He used the laws of the land to help the workers' union, even though it wasn't a legal union because America capitalism sucks and got rid of unions at this point, like they're trying to do in America now. And he was on the workers' side, and he helped them get what the fuck they wanted and what they needed in order to survive. And good on Sinclair for that. Good job. I also agree with you on that one.
Uh,
On the fourth instance, there was plenty of other small
so,
mistakes he made, though.
with all that being said,
Workers'
I
rights.
have been and will surely continue to be Noah.
And I'm Tiger Eyes 45, the embarrassed demisexual who still cannot get the image of Londo's genitalia out of my fucking head.
And you finally caught Babylon 5 season 5.
Season 1!
Season 1.
I
We've
called
got
it
some ways to go.
I called it
We're on a
Farscape
long
earlier.
road here. We've got some ways to go
I mean,
yet.
I did call it Farscape earlier on a tweet when talking about it, And I was waiting, and like the whole show would be better if Dargo was in there, but it's whatever. I'll settle without Dargo, I guess.
I guess so.
Damn.
Uh.
Every sci-fi show needs Dargo in it. Dargo is like perfect, on point.
That is true. That is true.
No one
So,
rocks a dress.
hey, I
better
know we
than
haven't
him.
done this before, or we've kind of incorporated into the main show, but I wondered if you want to ask to see if the viewers, if any, had any questions they wanted to ask us right now, and take this as a direct opportunity now that the main show is over to like reach out. Because I know I have somebody that in my chat mentioned earlier if we were taking questions, and I thought I'd provide a space for that if you're down for it.
No one in my chat has questions right now. It's mostly just been people, shit talking. So, with like the two people who did hop in chat. So, feel free to ask your question.
Yeah, any questions at all, please go to town.
We should start.
Any embarrassing
incorporating this
questions
at
should
the
be
end.
directed to me.
I'm still not recovered from that episode. Why did that have to be one of the last episodes?
The revelation regarding certain features of male Centauri anatomy, of I don't
Centauri
of
the
Centauri
Centauri.
anatomy.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
fact that like
Turns-
all the
yep.
Centauri women have been dressed so revealing. I wasn't expecting that.
I mean, the implication is that the women don't have the tentacles.
Yes. But like there's got to be other weird stuff going on with their biology.
Who knows what's going on up in there?
Fair enough. Who knows?
Who knows? Man, man, the Centauri. I've never actually seen like all the bonus features that we have like access to at my place, like on all the box sets. But it's my understanding that the Centauri, specifically Londo, is the source of a lot of like costuming issues because of his hair. He's got the big like Cusco's crown haircut. Well, Cusco's crown as a haircut, and it's like it was a constant struggle. And if you watch this season end with the pilot movie alone, you can watch it transform.
Shorter and smaller. Yeah.
It's shorter, it's smaller, it's not too
It
frizzy
also
out.
became more like set back. Like it kept going farther and farther back
And then-
on his head.
Veer's is kind of shorter and it's like frizzier and like is
Yeah.
that a character choice? Is that them trying to use his real hair?
Is that like is that supposed to be like a status of power or a symbol of status or power or whatever? Who knows? Who knows with the fucking Centauri?
I think that's the implication. There's a day when like the Emperor of the Centauri Republic shows up and like there's like a whole kerfuffle because he's shaved his head and like maybe he's bald and he's just chosen not to wear a wig. He just wants to go as he is because he's kind of radical in his old age. And it's like a big like, oh, Emperor, are you sure?
All the women are nearly bald with like one fucking ponytail. I
So it's gotta be a
wonder if that's
masculine
why.
thing.
I wonder if that's why they freak out about the Emperor being bald because it's considered feminine.
Oh, I bet you're right. There's probably an association there.
The Centauri feels sexist to me.
Thanks for watching the video. If you liked our discussions on Babylon 5 Season 1, please subscribe to support our channel. Likes are wonderful and greatly appreciated too. If you want to see these episodes get made before they go up on YouTube, you can find the links to our Twitch channels in the description below. We record the episode on both channels at 9 p.m. EST on Tuesday nights. So, who do you guys think is right in the Narn and Centauri conflict?